Hi, welcome back and welcome to another one of our videos. Today's video we're going to be looking at some reading comprehension strategies and we're going to be looking at how to ace your questions, how to give the most amazing answers to make sure you get the most amount of marks possible when you're completing your work. Now, firstly, let's go through what does it mean to ace your questions? Well, ACE is actually an acronym, and so what it stands for is to ace the question, you've got to make sure that you answer the question, firstly, that you cite the evidence, and you extend your answer by explaining in your own words. Okay, when I say answer the question, I don't just mean give me a basic answer, I mean restate the question in a full sentence. Okay, the second thing we need to look at is citing evidence. That means you can't just have a hunch for a lot of these questions in informative texts. You're going to need to use evidence from the text. Whereabouts does it say that? And state that evidence in there to prove that you did use the text to answer your question. And the third thing, extend your answers. If you have a connection or you have any other information that will help improve your answer, extending your answer to make sure that you're giving the person who's marking your work the most amount of information possible on that question that you gave them. All right, we're going to go back. Answering the question, citing evidence, and extending your answers. So let's look at how we're going to do that. Like I just said, restating the answers in full sentences. I do not want to see one-word answers. If you give me one-word answers, I'm going to mark it wrong. You've got to restate the question in a full sentence. Secondly, add in a sentence to show that what evidence you cited. Okay, so one of the things I'm going to use today is I know this because. I know this because the text said this. We're not just going to say, I guess it was this. And the third thing, if it's possible, extending your answers to give me more information. Don't just give me irrelevant information, but if it's going to give me more information to extend that answer, to make it just that little bit extra, because lots of times when you're getting to year 6 and year 7, and year 8 and onwards, they're not just giving you 1 mark per question. The question might be out of 5 marks. So they're looking for multiple different answers in there to actually give you that correct answer. So giving those extra information to extend on your answer might be something that really is useful. So let's look at some things we've already done before and see how we go with that. Let's use the example of the video that I made about the Australian colonies, about John MacArthur. If I ask the question to you, why did John MacArthur get sent back to England? Okay. A lot of you would answer me, he shot an officer in a duel. It is a correct answer. However, the answer that you got from that text did say a lot more than that, and plus you give me a very basic answer that doesn't restate it in a full sentence. So that would be the lowest possible answer you could give me that's still correct. If you want to make it a little bit better, you're going to restate that answer in a full sentence. So, John MacArthur was sent back to England because he shot another officer in a duel. So, why did he get shot? John MacArthur was sent back. Don't write the shot button. John MacArthur was sent back to England because he shot another officer in a duel. So you're saying to me why you're restating the question by answering a full sentence. But that's not all. The next part of it was citing evidence. Where in my text, in my video, did it say that that was what happened? John MacArthur was sent back to England because he shot a superior in a duel. I know this because the text stated the governor wanted MacArthur to pay for his crime, so he sent him on a boat back home. This is the part I want you to look at. I know this because the text stated. This part is really important. You've got to cite your evidence as to how you know that answer is correct. If you do not do that, then you could have been making it up. It could have just been a hunch. I need to know where in the text you found that information, especially if you got the wrong answer also, because I need to know which part of you came up with that as the idea. Now I can see that the answer behind me is blocking through my head, which I didn't know was going to happen. But the last one is you're going to extend on your answer. So you're going to use the answer you did by answering the question in a full sentence, citing the evidence, and now we're going to go and extend any information by saying, why did he get sent back to England? Well, there's also a bit more to it than just the fact that he got sent back because he shot someone. So John MacArthur was sent back to England because he shot a superior officer in a duel. I know this because the text stated that MacArthur shot his superior and the governor wanted to punish him for his crime. So he sent him back on. Governor Arthur Phillip also disliked MacArthur for quite some time and saw this as an opportunity to get rid of him. That last bit, that Governor Arthur Phillip disliked MacArthur and he thought this was going to be a chance to get back at him, it does matter. It does relate to the question, why did he get sent back to England? Because Arthur Phillip was looking for a reason to get back at him. So it's not irrelevant to the story, but it also gives that little bit of extra information so that teacher's going, wow, I've got to give you full marks because not only have you answered the question, but you've gone above it and extended on that answer. Now we're going to go through and we're going to read a new set of information and see if you can answer a question and see if we could actually build this up ourselves. So when you're reading it, like we talked about in the last one, we've got to actively click, clunk, make sure we got our information. If we don't have any understanding, we've got to go back. By 1820, the days of relative freedom for convicts in Sydney was now over. So that video I made for the other day, the freedom was starting to get taken off them by now. Now unmarried government men were ordered directly into the prisoners' barracks where Deputy Superintendent of Convicts John Gandel would control their work hours and their whereabouts. So someone was controlling their whereabouts from now on. The barracks was not a prison, okay, just a place to sleep and eat. But the rules and regulations might have made it feel like living here felt like an additional punishment. Now you can see I got confused when I was reading that sentence. I'm going to go back and read that again. The barracks was not a prison. Okay, click. Just a place to eat and sleep. Okay. But the rules and regulations might have made living here feel like an additional punishment. Click, I get it. The convicts knew of institutions like this back home. Institutions. Places? Let's say if institution means places. It actually means, yeah. The convicts knew of places like this back home and they distrusted them because of the harsh living conditions and the loss of freedom. So they didn't like the freedom being taken off them. At least everything here was fresh inside. The window panes, let's say I didn't know what panes were. Let's just try to get rid of it. The window glimmered in the sunshine. The flax hammocks, let's say if I didn't know what flax meant. The hammocks were strong and taut. Okay. The scent smell of the recently cut eucalyptus timbers lingered, and the white lime washed walls were clean and hygienic. Okay, so the walls were clean. There were hammocks there. It doesn't seem like it was as bad as what a prison would be. The main building had 12 cavernous sleeping wards. Okay, so the word cavernous. Cavernous, I can see the prefix of the word cave in there. So I'm assuming maybe if it's like a cave, 12 cavernous, like cave-like sleeping wards designed to hold 600 men. Wow, that's a lot. But now, just a year since the barracks had opened, it proved too small, having to hold as many as 1,000 men. Wow, that would have been tight. Convicts who were married or had established businesses were permission to leave, to remain living out of barracks in their home, and the small number of women convicts enjoyed much more freedom unless they were badly behaved and were sent to a female factory. Now, I just read that whole last paragraph without actually focusing, so let's go back. Convicts who were married or had established were permitted to live outside the barracks. That's cool, in their family homes. It's an incentive to get married. And the small number of women convicts enjoyed much more freedom. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Unless they were badly behaved and were sent to a female factory. Maybe we'll have to learn a bit more about this female factory. Okay, so I've read that and I've understood it. I might go back and read it one more time just to make sure of it. And I'm going to go, but first I might read the question and see if that relates and if I have to go back. Okay, so the question is, were the barracks a prison? That should be barracks. Were the barracks a prison? I think I know, but before I answer, I'm going to go back and check. Okay, were the barracks a prison? I remember where it was from. I remember that it was from this top section here. So, here. The barracks was not a prison, just a place to eat and sleep. That usually you would get that and go straight back, but that's not enough because you don't know if they're going to give you more information. So just because you find the right answer, that doesn't mean it's always enough. The barracks were not a prison, just a place to sleep and eat, but the rules and regulations might have made feeling like living here was an additional punishment, so it must have still been like a punishment as well. The convicts knew of institutions like this back home and they distrusted them because of the harsh living conditions and loss of freedom. So it still wasn't nice. Okay, let's go back. If I was to answer this you'll see is my bump it up wall. What I'm going to show you here is the worst possible answer to the best possible answer. Okay, and we're going to talk about what we would expect from a year 5 or 6 student here. So how are the barracks different from a prison? How are the barracks different from a prison? the barracks, sorry, it should be the first question, which were the barracks a prison? Let's go back and fix that. Okay, were the barracks a prison? You can see the first answer that I've given here is no. That's true, they weren't a prison, but that's not going to get you any marks there because you didn't do any of the ACE thing. You answered the question, but you didn't answer in a full sentence. So that's firstly no chance of getting that correct. Okay, the second part. Were the barracks a prison? The barracks that the convicts stayed in at were not a prison. I have answered the question. On the ACE thing, answer the question, cite evidence, and extend your answers. That has answered the question. It's okay, but it's not the best answer. But at least I've answered it in a full sentence. Now let's try to the second one on ACE, citing evidence. Where in the text does it say that? Okay, they ready? The barracks that the convicts stayed in at the prison, the barracks that the convicts stayed in at were not a prison. I know this because the text stated that the barracks were not a prison, just somewhere that they had to eat and sleep. Great. Look at this. I know this because the text stated. This is really important. If you take nothing else away from this video, make sure you know that when I'm saying about citing evidence, I want you to use this sentence starter. I know this because, and then use where you found that information, because you're not just going to make it up. So we've got a pretty bad answer, an answer that's the basic version. Now we're citing evidence. We're close to being right at the top of my answers. But the last one on ACE said to extend your answers. So how are we going to extend our answers to give that bit of information more so to say, were the barracks a prison? Well, I guess why are they even asking that question? So let's have a look. The barracks that the convicts stayed in were not a prison. I know this because the text stated that the barracks were not a prison, just somewhere that they had to eat and sleep. Now we're going to see what else I add on. Even though it wasn't a prison, the layout and the rules of the prison may have made them feel like they were in a prison. That's true as well. So think about it. They're asking was it a prison, but it was close to a prison. So just saying no, it wasn't a prison isn't even really necessarily talking about how it would have even been close. What were the similarities between this and prison? They were controlled in some ways about when they could go out, and people had to know where they were. They did have sleeping conditions that weren't ideal, and there was lots of people in a small area. So yes, it wasn't a prison, but by extending your answer, saying, look, there were a lot of things that were like a prison, but it wasn't one, is how you extend your answer to get the best possible answer. So when I give you your next bit of reading, where you're going to have to read a long form of text, probably about something similar to this, and I give you questions, I don't want to see just basic answers. I don't want to see you just write in full sentences or cite evidence. I want to see you do all three. Write it in full sentences, cite your evidence, and then extend on that answer. I won't give you many questions, but it's really important that you start trying to answer like this, so when you're getting tests, you're giving yourself the best possibility to get the most marks possible. I hope this has been helpful in how you would answer the questions, because sometimes you understand what the question's asking you, but the answer you're giving isn't giving yourself the best possibility to get the most marks. I hope that's been helpful, and I'm happy to take feedback if there's anything else you want help with. Thanks for watching.